What's going on, everybody? This is Moose and Brian here from OccupyFantasy.com at OccupyFantasy on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I am your host, Moose, at CFB_Moose on Twitter is where you can find me. Co-founder and data guru here at OccupyFantasy.com, alongside Brian at BrianJesterFF on Twitter. He's the co-founder and CEO of Occupy Fantasy. How's it going, Brian?
What's up, Moose? I see you're in a different place today. You got the Sean Taylor jersey behind you, if the people can see it. A little Washington football team homage. I like it. What's up?
Not too bad. Yeah, I'm at the parents' house. Dog appointments, myself appointments, / doctor's appointments. Everything's like half off in Maryland, Southern Maryland, compared to Virginia. So I come
True.
down here, spend a couple days with the folks, get some good home cooked meals, have a good time while we're at it. And yeah, so we're here until 30 so minutes or so. I know we started a little bit late. Turns out not bringing your setup with you is detrimental, and when you have to use your significant other setup. But hey, we make it work, and we're here 30 minutes or so. If you have questions, you can go ahead and ask. This is the $1 Million Mission Week 7 review. We take a look at Brian's past lineups, how they did, what other pros done, how they did, what winners did, and we kind of just have some fun time along the way. So to start off, Brian, let's take a look at. I'll start off with
say, Moose, why you bring that up? Your headset, this new headset, it's very airplane pilot vibes after when they make their announcements over the. If you can do one of those impressions for me.
Yeah, so, and cruising at around 15,000 feet. If you look over to the left, you'll see Brian's, that didn't work. You'll see Brian's ROI for the live final. For the Fantasy Football World Championship, 96% in the negative. Yeah, I'll stop with that.
Very fun. Yeah,
Yes.
The last announcement I want to hear when I'm on a plane.
Yeah.
Minus 96% ROI. But yeah, so let me see it. Do you have it up on screen yet?
I do. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, this week was the first week I've decided to lower my FFWC allocation significantly. I only played the $125 qualifier on the main slate. I haven't been playing on Showdown anymore. I think someone asked in week 1 or 2, maybe it was week 3 after I was getting my teeth kicked in every single slate. They were asking, is there a specific amount that you're willing to lose or a bankroll number that you're willing to get to where you would stop playing FFWC qualifiers? Well, no spike weeks yet, so we've reached that point. So no longer going hard at the FFWC. I got a lot of big tickets this week in various contests. So if we get a spike week, then we'll be back at that because we still have until week 14 or so for that.
Okay.
King of the Beach is a much lower barrier to entry, $5, $20, $40 qualifiers. So still playing those, and we only have until week 10. I'm still trying to get my second ticket there. And the World Fantasy Football Championship on FanDuel, again, a little bit lower price points, and actually made money in those contests this week. It goes to show how close I was over there in my small field lineups.
Yeah, and I know we talked about this during the week 0 edition for the King of the Beach, where it has such a small entry that even someone of a lower bankroll. I mean, I've been throwing in some money at the King of the Beach as well. I kind of just chalk it up to fire. But again, I do like that they have the smaller price point for people who aren't completely professional like you, have that chance at a live final. So maybe I'll match you with one of those tickets one day.
I'm not going to get more than one apparently, so you definitely got a chance to at least match.
Definitely. And then if we take a look at your classic results, let's see here where. Yeah, so plus 8.6% in small field, and then minus 70% in 150 max classic and 150 max showdown. And Brian, I'll mention about the 150 max really quick. That's slowly been creeping up. I don't know if that's because variance is getting in your way. I feel like your process is starting to get a little bit more sharper. But the first week minus 90 something percent, but now it's still slowly creeping up, showing that you're probably doing something right or you're really close to something.
Yeah, I've been feeling really good. I mean, this week I had Burrow, Chase, Boyd stacks in the millie. Last week I had some good ones. So yeah, I'm feeling good about the process overall. As we know, my results tend to get a little bit better after week 4, so I'm sure that has something to do with it too. And yeah, a little classic variance in there as well. The small field this week was kind of tilting because I've done really well. Obviously, with the plus 8.6% ROI is great. I actually did really well in single game slates this week in small field contests. Made money significantly there, and I actually airballed all but one lineup on the classic slate on FanDuel and DraftKings. I had the one lineup on FanDuel that got close, the Burrow Chase stack. But on DK, all 6 of my lineups airballed. Somehow had a Burrow lineup in small field that didn't cash because I failed to include either Chase or Boyd in that lineup. So, which is just like mega tilting. And actually, I had a little bit less in the field. Actually, a lot less once I saw the actual ownership of Josh Jacobs. So that pretty much put a nail in the coffin. And I had 0% Jacobs on FanDuel outside of game stacks because of the price, and so it was a miracle to come away with what I did on FanDuel this week.
Yeah, so very interesting, very tilting. It's always tilting when you get the game stack right, but you don't get the individual pieces, or vice versa. You have the individual pieces, you just don't call it the game stack. So very
Yeah.
tilting either way.
And even like
Go ahead.
showdown 150 max, I've had some crazy sweats the last couple of weeks where fourth quarter been high up, top 100, top 20, top 10 even. So yeah, I'm getting really close. And I have 2 3K tickets for this Thursday's game. And speaking of classic, I have 4 of the 2K tickets over on FanDuel. So it's a big ticket week, and hopefully some of these numbers will turn green with the spike week. So
Yeah, and before we go into the next one, I've always wanted to ask you this, and I think we've brought it up before, but for when you, whether it's like live finals or these random one-off tickets, if you have something that's not like the number of tickets that is not necessarily close to what your normal process is, let's say you have 5 tickets, normally you do single entry or 20 max. Kind of how do you handle that as an approach? Do you, if it's within your bankroll, do you maybe top, if you maybe if you're missing one or two, maybe you top it off through cash? But if you're not that way, kind of how do you deal with learning on how to build something completely new with a short week? And I'll just let you finish.
it's it's tough, yeah, because I'm normally building 6 or so small field lineups for DraftKings DraftKings single game, and and I think the 3K is 600 and some people, which is a little more than I usually play. I'm usually playing 200 300 player contests in DraftKings Showdown contests. So yeah, that's a little bit different. And on FanDuel, it's a 500 player 2K 4 max. I normally enter 3 to 6 lineups over there. So the amount of lineups are kind of the same. The sizes are a little bit different. But also it's kind of the time even if I didn't have those tickets this week, every 6 weeks or so, it's time to actually deep dive into the contest to make sure what we know is true and if any new trends are emerging. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously we do slate to slate and we do week to week, but these full deep dives that we normally do in the off season, I try to do them every 6 8 weeks or so in
Okay.
season as well. And it's nice that with it's just a greater importance this week with tickets on it. So to that point, your question, I would say when it is ticket week, start trying to research as much as you can about that contest type or that contest size, whether it's either your own contest or whatever links you can find or lineups you can find that people have played in the past that have been successful.
Good question, or good answer, I should say. Good answer. Good answer. And you can tell I've been
Family
watching
Feud
Family
style.
Feud.
No matter what the answer is, it's always good answer, good answer.
Good answer. Good answer. Anyway, so and then if we take it off to the last thing that we see here, it is the DraftKings Pick'em that we're in. Still eliminated in Survivor. That does not change week to week. However, in Pick'em, Bryant, that was also equally tilting. We started off 3-0, the 1 o'clock, uh, and then not any more wins the rest. However, despite having a losing record, because we went with so many leverage pieces, which I'll let Brian explain, we actually moved up spots.
Yeah, and I think this is something as the past couple of weeks we've dropped in the standings or before this week, we realized that okay, we're at the point now we can't really start taking these chalky teams. When we were ahead of the curve, weeks 1 through 4, we felt okay taking some of the chalkier teams. But now with less games on the slate and given some of the line movement, we knew that the field was going to concentrate on like 5 teams, and we felt really good about just taking the opposite of those teams because similar to DFS, right? In DFS, you have the optimal lineup percentage or however you want to calculate that, whether it's just you guessing at it or you're running simulations. Versus the ownership, you can tell it's like, okay, that guy's way too highly owned or this guy's way lower owned than he should be. And the best example is this Carolina pick that we had. So they
Yeah.
were I want to say plus 11 or so in the DraftKings pool.
Plus
It was
10 and a
above
half.
10, right?
Plus 10 and a
10 and a
half.
half. But the line had moved up to 13 or so, right?
Mm-hmm.
In real life betting markets. So from 10 and a half to 13, the public knew that there was a 2.5 point line move. New Carolina was tanking after trading away Christian McCaffrey. And so we knew that Tampa Bay was going to be one of the most popular teams. No one in the right mind would take Carolina. And even if it was over a key number, that move, if it moved from like 6.5 to 7.5, 6.5 to 8 or whatever, the percentage points and win probability that changed from that difference wasn't going to outweigh the ownership difference in the pick'em contest,
Hmm.
right? So when it locked, we saw that 40% of the field picked Tampa Bay in this pick'em, and only 3% picked Carolina. So you can't tell me that even with a 2.5 point move on non-key numbers was made Tampa Bay 13 times more likely to cover a spread in a
Yeah.
huge betting market like NFL than Carolina would. And so finding those spots are really key, even if it's a 46% chance, 45% chance. When only 3% of people are doing it, that's massive leverage, and it has the double intended effect, right? Because the other, it's not like we're picking a game where it's both sides are 3%. We're picking a side where one's 3 and one's 40.
Yeah.
So even though we go 3-4 this week, we have a losing record because some of those leverage spots won. We moved up despite losing more games, but the field got crushed by those big spreads.
Yeah, and I think Dallas was the other one that was big leverage that we picked. That one. But yeah, I really like that strategy, and definitely something that we're going to be looking forward to in the future. So let's see here. Let's take a look at some of the questions and stuff we have in chat. Let's see. Ed says, "What in the random dartboard was that Millie lineup?" We'll take a look at it here in a second.
Sure.
And Starlord's dad says, "Doesn't make me feel so bad looking at your ROI since it's similar to mine. Watching this show helps me get more positive moving forward. Thank you."
Glad I could help. And I mean, that's part of the reason why we do this too. And it's kind of similar to Jimmy's comment right after that, which I appreciate. So I've seen you win many times, so it doesn't phase me a bit. Just glad it's not in my wallet. No, I appreciate that, Jimmy. And yeah, again, we do this for a bunch of reasons. One is to keep me accountable myself,
Hmm.
right? It's very easy not to open your roto tracker when you're in a losing streak. But this keeps me accountable, keeps me grinding. Two, as content providers, right? I think a lot of people want you to be transparent, and if they're losing, they don't want to see you bragging about your wins, and vice versa. They also know that they want to know that if they're losing, you're losing too. So this helps in that regard. And yeah, it's just it's I think it's positive all around despite the losses. And we've done the show for 4 years now, and we've
Yeah.
seen these exact numbers. Maybe
Yeah.
not to the dollar amounts because I'm playing a lot more this year, but the percentages are we see these. It's very within range. So yeah, for sure.
That just means after a while we need to have a super mega whale stack of the year, and then just
This
not
week,
stop
baby.
just stop doing the show afterwards and say, "Hey,
Yeah. Yeah, super mega game stack whale. I go minus 100% ROI and the show just stops and I go bankrupt.
Dot Bet says 7 weeks down. Any particular trends we are seeing the field is doing as a whole that we can continue to gain leverage on the rest of the way?
I mean, just from a showdown perspective, we'll talk about showdown here for a little bit, I guess, and then we'll go to the classic review. But just the way kickers are still being underutilized, especially on FanDuel, and I'm moving it over to DraftKings as well. It's like fuck it, dude. Like these kickers are crushing. I've had a kicker in all of my small field showdown lineups, at least one for the past 3 weeks now. So that's
Yeah.
like nine straight slates, and especially on FanDuel, which is crazy. Like Santos was like 15% in the monster last night. So,
Wow.
okay, well I'll keep printing money in the monster, I guess.
Yeah.
But the big, there's trends, and I think we talked about this on Saturday maybe. But just to recap a bit, you see data trends like, oh, kickers are popping up more this year, but then you see like actual NFL data to say that like the link we shared a couple weeks ago, Moose, the NFL stats and research operations about cover two being played more and teams scoring less and average margin of victories are lower, and hearing actual athletes talk about it.
Hmm.
Austin Eckler comes to mind. He does the Yahoo show with Matt Harmon, and he was just saying like teams now are forcing you to throw underneath. And the whole philosophy now is instead of letting a guy like Mahomes or Allen or whoever just beat you downfield for 60 yards and a touchdown, it is much more difficult when you're playing a defensive team that just makes you pick up 5-6 yards at a time.
Yeah.
And the hope is that if you face 4 third downs on a drive, 5 third downs on a drive, you're gonna fuck up once. Whether defense makes a play, you drop a pass, miss a read, miss a
Hmm.
blow, miss a blocking assignment, right? It's a lot harder to score touchdowns that way than if you can just get, 140-yard pass or here's a couple 20-yard plays down the field, getting the red zone. And as a result of that, if we see teams start to pick up these third downs, they're starting to stall in the red zone even more. And I think that's a big result why we're seeing the kicker scoring in showdown have such an increase this year. So it makes sense. Offenses haven't adjusted yet. I'm sure they will. The NFL is cyclical. But until we see some sort of evidence pointing that the offense is overcoming this new defensive scheme, this new defensive strategy that teams are employing, I think kickers are going to continue to dominate showdown contests, especially if most the sites don't change their prices. Like Tucker is 4K on
Yeah.
Thursday. The kickers remain 9K 9,500 on FanDuel. So the pricing hasn't changed much when it changes at other positions. So I think we just got to take advantage of it until we figure out how teams start. Because we'll see data. We'll see data
Yeah.
that teams are starting to figure this out. But as of now, they're not. That's a whole showdown take. But hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, and I'll leave it off as this, is because I do a lot of FanDuel tracking data. Last year on Showdown, so primetime island games, including the London whatever games, the average optimal lineup scored 103 points last season. This season is 94, so down basically a
Jesus.
whole touchdown and some change. So uh, when scoring decreases like that, who benefits? Kickers, defenses, potentially, depending on how the game script goes, other people could benefit, but kickers really benefit from that. If scoring's down and they're not scoring touchdowns or scoring field goals, kickers benefit.
Definitely, absolutely. And Moose, should we talk about? I know in the video yesterday I talked about it, but we didn't really go in depth. And I talked about it in Discord a little bit. Should we talk about the Mac Jones situation and just taking stands like that
Yeah,
on specific situations?
yeah. So we can talk about that. So as we talked about yesterday, there was such huge. There wasn't really clarity on if Matt Jones will start or not. Brian, you and I were talking about it beforehand. You asked me, what was my opinion. I said Mac Jones probably plays 60-40, and you said you thought he plays 100, but he was what, 55 to 60% owned contests, and even if he splits any reps whatsoever, that makes him almost impossible to become optimal. And
Yeah.
the taking stands, what I did in my pooch punt 150, what you did in your 150, had zero Mac Jones, and
We had our
that's
fingers crossed that we really wish Zappy was cheaper, right? Because we would have played a lot of Zappy, but he's the same price. But I think this goes to like that was a situation that you just don't see,
mhm.
right? Quarterbacks don't rotate, and national reporters aren't going to hint at that if that's not going to be a thing, right? Like they're again, it's quarterback. It's not like it's running back. It's like, oh, they'll ease this guy in. It's linebacker. He'll play package snaps. It's not like we talked about Keenan Allen. He might play third downs in red zone.
Mhm.
It's like no, it's a quarterback. Like, how do you rotate quarterbacks? So because it never happens, the fact that multiple different sources are saying, "Hey, this is a possibility," no one's going to believe that because, like, who the hell rotates quarterbacks in the NFL? It's like, all right, well, they're not going to report that if it's not a thing, especially guys like Pelissero and Schefter. If it was just only Rappaport, we'd be like, okay, that's probably not happening. But it's like multiple different guys reporting this. And so I think, in this day and age, we talk about qualitative data all the time. We can find an edge that we think something this guy's not going to play more. This guy's going to split. This might happen based on rumblings I'm reading. I mean, you got to go all in on those types of situations. So I had 0% Mac in every single lineup. Small field, 150 both sides, and I had a profitable night. Just couldn't find the right combo afterwards. But I think it goes to show the benefit of taking those stands like that.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it before with cheap running backs that we've had it before where we've looked at the past data where people either go all in, one end of the spectrum or not, 0 or 100%. And I mean, I would never go 100% Mac Jones. That would be like awful. But like if you stay in that sense where you have some data, he's not going to be 100%. He potentially could split reps. It's very difficult, very very difficult for him to hit the optimal lineup in any type of contest. And if
Yeah.
you know he's going to be 50, 60% owned, and you know that those lineups are dead automatically, absolutely hammer 0%, get complete leverage. The only thing I would say, Brian, then is because it's quarterback, it's very difficult to make one quarterback or zero quarterback lineup, especially on like FanDuel. It does kind of trick you into thinking, okay, well, now how do I build lineups with only using one quarterback for the entire slate? It's a good problem to have, but a problem nevertheless.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, I want to play Jacoby Myers at captain. And your typical correlation rules, you would say, have a New England quarterback in the flex. But if they're splitting, it's kind of like preseason, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
this receiver's going to play the whole game, but their quarterbacks are splitting a half. It's like the rare preseason comparison. It's like, well, you just don't have to stack. Or it's
Mm-hmm.
like this quarterback's going to play the whole game, but all the receivers are rotating. You don't have to stack them then in preseason because good luck trying to figure out who's gonna. That's the same way. Does the exact same thing here. So it's very interesting. And the last point I'll make on this regard, if you're ever concerned about, oh, I don't know, like this is a risky move, look at my ROI. Right, we're talking like -80, -90, playing not risky, right? Like your normal amount of risk for GPPs, right? Playing 0% or 100% of a guy in showdown like that is incredibly risky. But if the average outcome is already -80%, like what more are you losing when you
Yeah.
take a stand like that? So I always joke to Ken about this as like I'm gonna lose anyways. So like why not? Why not do this, right? I joke with Nirmata about it too. It's like, oh, you're gonna play 20% of this 1% guy. It's like, yeah, well, I'm gonna lose anyways. So what like why not add some upside to whatever it is? So if you can find those spots like that, don't just like force it.
Yeah.
Right? Don't just like automatically just play this guy just because you want to play zero and you want to get leverage. But if you find any reason at all, I think it's a great move. Another example, Moose, is like
Backup quarterbacks.
backup quarterbacks is one example. But another one is this like let's just say you're building lineups for whatever sport,
Hmm.
and this one guy's popular. Let's just say Josh Jacobs, right? This one guy's popular, and all your bills, you never really get to that guy, right? And you're like, okay, maybe I should make a couple more lineups and squeeze him in there. Well, it's like, well, if you already have these other lineups that you really like and you like the construction, just go 0%. If he goes off, you're probably gonna lose anyways.
Yeah.
But if he busts, now you got all your lineups are gonna benefit from that. So it's find reasons to do it. Don't just force it.
Yep. Exactly. And then we'll go ahead and we'll switch back over to we're going to switch over to Fantasy Labs here, the contest dashboard. We'll take a look at how other people did, and yeah, we'll go from there. So if we take a look at, I know Ed was talking about the leaderboard, so we'll take a look at the leaderboard. This is the wrong contest because why would it actually show the right contest in the first try? Let's see here.
Moose, really quick, while you're pulling that up, Chris asked a question. Actually, Ed mentioned it earlier about Sam Ellinger, min price quarterback situation, early macro thoughts on how that changes the slate. Yeah, that's interesting because this upcoming main slate is pretty gross overall as far as totals and game environments. But now we got a guy who's 5K who can run a bit. That's the key. Like he's mobile. But the other point is he also sucks. So, yeah, like in cash games, I think we'll see people go there. But I guess the question is, it depends on what value opens up. And it's like, would you rather play 5K Ellinger and hope he gets you 15 points, or would you just rather play 8K Hertz and just secure 30? So
Yeah.
it's always a question. And like if Matt Ryan couldn't run the offense, Ellinger is more mobile. It's not like Ellinger is going to run the offense that much better
Hmm.
as far as like facilitating and getting other guys involved and keeping their fantasy production afloat. So from a game stacking environment, it makes it tough. It's just maybe we'll see a naked quarterback win. We've seen it a couple times, like the
A few
Taysom
times.
slates and whatnot. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm never gonna be the one that plays those types of guys. But long story short, it would not shock me if Ellinger runs for 67 yards, a touchdown, and ends up optimal.
I know I was
4K.
trying to
He's
look.
4K even. He's 4K even. So that's pretty cheap.
I mean, he could be $4. I probably wouldn't play him, but yeah, I mean, it's tough. I would look at. I just tried to look on my phone to see if the like individual games were posted. Maybe if he's like super cheap on like the one-off showdown slates, maybe you could leverage it that way.
True.
But let's see here. Sorry, yeah. So this is the Millie winner from last Sunday, Bamor or Biamor, whatever your name is. Had the 3-by-0 stack, which we talked about Brian on Saturday. Burrow, Chase, Hayden Hurst, uh, and then just had a lot of other popular things around it, pretty much, and some
Yeah, and I
cheap
even
plays. Yeah.
so he has a running back in the flex, and this kind of goes to the point of teams forcing teams to check down, run the ball more. Running backs a little more viable in flex, especially if DraftKings continues to ignore the pricing of these guys. Like Eckler, high reception upside.
Hmm.
Walker and Jacobs just clearly mispriced for their roles. So that makes a ton of sense. What I think a lot of people are just blown away by is the fact that they play 2% Mecole Hardman, a wide receiver 3, 2% Paris Campbell, who is also a wide receiver 3, got ceiling games out of them. Yeah. Are you going to expect them to do that? No. But it's a great balance, I think, Moose, here of ownership between high owned and low owned plays because they played a 32% Kenneth Walker. They played a 46% Josh Jacobs. They played a fucking 44% defense. But they balanced it out by playing three guys under 10%,
Yeah.
including two guys who were 2%. So from an ownership balance, an ownership scale, I think it's pretty well done.
Yeah, you pretty much hit that on the head. I mean, we actually talked about it last week where if you're making a stack and it can be kind of expensive, maybe you want to throw in a cheap piece and potentially that could be the tight end. Maybe he doesn't
Yep.
cannibalize as much. Maybe he just gets a couple check downs here and there.
We
Um,
literally talked about this. So tilting. We talked about this exact stack. I can't believe it.
I know, and yeah, kind of crazy. And then again, what was it? Tyler Boyd had 2 touchdowns and like of 6 billion yards, got priced out because just the way things work. So it just goes to show that if you're stacking and sometimes you have that cheap piece, even if this is the most like ceiling scenario where Hayden Hurst had like a couple catches and the other guy that gets priced out has like what 35 points or something that it can still work out even if you have everything else fall into place.
For sure. Absolutely. So, I mean, and this is just another point to the small field stuff too. Like if you want to tack on the tight end for a 4-0 stack or 4-1 or 4-2, whatever, tacking on the cheap tight end has been a profitable strategy. We see the Chipotle brothers do it all the time. It's what we've been talking about here. And this is why, right? When you tack on a $3,500 tight end and your quarterback throws for 400 yards, he's likely going to benefit in some way. You need your quarterback to outperform expectations to win these contests regardless. So if he does, the tight end's going to benefit. Again, he only scores 10 points, but he's only 3,500 and allows you to pay up for Eckler, allows you to get both Jacobs and
Mm-hmm.
Walker, allows you to play Jamar Chase. So, um, yeah, I think, as we talk about Curtis Samuel pieces and mega stacks and all these just ideas combined into one, using the cheap tight end, especially when they're viable, it's not just like some bum ass tight end, but like a guy who's going to run 80% of the routes like Hurst, it makes a ton of sense to use them.
Yeah, I actually got hit in a head-to-head of Burrow, Chase, Boyd, Hurst, and I lost that one.
In a head to head?
Yeah,
Damn, that person knew exactly.
I was like,
That's
damn,
crazy.
I was like, damn, he watched the show and attacked me personally. I was like, damn, this dude is crushing it right now.
Seeks you out. It's like I'm gonna beat this dude with his own Bengal stack.
Definitely. If we take a look at the reports tab here, we'll see again, use your salary. And then again, you see here a lot of people use running back in the flex. Still, somehow 20 something percent of people are using tight ends in flex. But
There was it was a weird week where I'm a couple seconds behind. Were they profitable this week? Were they more in top 1% lineups?
no, 22.77 versus 20.7.
That's a shit ton of tight ends. But we saw people talk about it in Discord. It's like, it's a weird week. Can I play double tight end? And for a long time on Sunday, I saw some double tight end lineups near the top. So people are going to do it, but it's not. Apparently, it was better than playing wide receiver in flex this week. So
Definitely, yeah. And then if we take a look at the duplicates tab, we'll see the most number of duplicates is it was a Geno Smith, Tyler Lockett with Atlanta defense, so that didn't do too well. Um,
whoops.
I was looking to see if there's any like stacking involved with this or not, but uh, like games that yeah, not too much. Again, that's just a lineup. Not really much else to say. We got a question here from Sean that says, "Are we getting too cute at this point, but not playing 100% Jacobs and Eckler?"
I mean, Eckler can always get priced out, right? He's not even on the main slate this week. They're not even playing. They're on a bye. So I would say it is getting cute to play Eckler this week. But Josh Jacobs, they finally fixed his price. He's 7,500. Generally, playing guys who have a 2K price increase coming off a 3 touchdown game has been bad news when it comes to DFS. And if you look at expected touchdowns, Jacobs was expected to score 1 touchdown last week, maybe a tiny bit more than one. He scored 3. Right, playing those guys like that with price increase. Now, if he was just 5,600 again, it's like, yeah, okay, play him. But when we see guys have price increases after big games, that's generally when you want to fade those guys. So I think the not getting cute method this week would not be playing who else is 5K, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, hold on. There's some I can't find them right now, but there's some mispriced running backs in the 5K range, like there always are every single freaking week. Raheem Mostert's an example, 5,900, right? Like guys playing 80%. So probably getting cute, not playing those guys. But I think it's totally reasonable not to play the guys whose prices have increased dramatically.
Makes sense. Absolutely. Cool. So we're kind of over our time. Ryan, is there anything else you want to talk about for the next couple minutes or anything like that?
No, I'm so tilted that I played 17% Burrow stacks in my lineups and didn't win. So I really don't want to see any more of these screenshots and these these lineups on
Okay,
my
I'll put
in front
the
of
I'll
my
put the
face.
logo back up of the thumbnail up. But yeah, that'll pretty much do it then, I guess. If you guys have any more questions, remember we do have the Discord and all that other good stuff. If you're new here and you like the video, go ahead and hit the like, thumbs up, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification if you want to be notified of any new videos. Check out our Discord at occupyfantasy.com/Discord to learn on how you can join. That'll pretty much do it until Saturday. Brian and I will be back here again to talk about NFL and some little videos along the way as well. But until next time, Moose and Brian from Occupy